Welcome to another video, the same every time. IGCSE Maths, GCSE Maths, looking at the kind of questions that apart from the numbers are the same every time. We're in our next video with this style of exam question, putting numbers in order. Write the following in order of size, smallest first. And in this particular set, we are going to do this using calculators. So the trick for this is to write each of our numbers as a decimal. Why not get your calculator out and do this one along with me? Let's do this one together. See if you get the same answers that I do. So we need to convert all of these into decimals. So first of all, 0.5 squared, pressing the squared button. I get originally on my calculator 1/4, but I'm going to write that as 0.25, so 0.5 squared, converting it to a decimal, 0.25. 0.5 is already a decimal, 0.5. 0.5 cubed, so 0.5 to the power 3. Try it on your calculator. Make sure that you're getting the same answer, 0.125. Cube root. Now, some calculators don't have a cube root button, but there should be an anything root button. So if you do the anything root button and put a 3 in there, check that you can do this. Cube root of 0.5. Check that you get the same answer I do. Well, it's a slightly annoying decimal. I'm going to write down, I think, the first 3 in this case, digits after the decimal point. I don't need to round it to 3 decimal places, just the first 3 digits will be fine. So 0.793, the cube root of 0.5. I'm going to write each of my decimals here so they have 3 digits after the decimal point. And that's going to make it easier to compare them. Now, each of my decimal numbers there starts with a 0, so I don't need to worry about what's on the left-hand side of the decimal point. I just need to look at the right-hand side. They say smallest first, so if I think of this as 125, I've got a 250, a 500, and a 793. The 125 is the smallest. I don't need to worry about the 0 on the left-hand side. So that's my smallest number, but I must write it down as it is in the original number in the question, 0.5 cubed. So next, it's going to be 250, isn't it? So 0.5 squared, and then 500, so that's just 0.5, and then 793 is cube root of 0.5. So there are my numbers in order from the smallest to the biggest. One method mark for converting them to decimals. It's useful to make sure that you're writing the same number of digits after the decimal point for each one of those questions, each one of those numbers rather. That's your method mark, so that's one of the marks in this question. Then the second mark is for writing them in order, smallest to biggest. And remember, I've said it a few times, you must write the original numbers, not your decimals. Here's the next one, actual exam question. You might want to have a go at this. Why not pause the video and then start to play it a little bit later, and we will compare our answers. So anyway, I'm going to continue with this one. So write them in order, smallest first. So that one is already a decimal, 0.008, so I'll leave that as a decimal. Okay, 8 times 10 to the power -5. Well, 8 times 10 to the power -5 is going to be 0. And then 4 zeros and an 8. If we just check that one, if I write this down, look, 8, okay, so 0.00008. So that's where my decimal point would be if it was just a whole number 8, and then times -5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, until I get back to the original decimal point. So 8 times 10 to the power -5 is a 0.4 zeros and an 8. If you want, you can do that on your calculator, type in 8 times 10 to the power negative 5, but it will give you the answer in standard form. However, to convert it to an actual number, press the Shift-Eng button and keep pressing it until it says times 10 to the power 0, and it should say 0.00008 times 10 to the power 0. Remembering that 10 to the power 0 is just 1, so 0.00008. 0.8%, be a little bit careful here, 0.8%, 0.8%, 0.8 over 100. So the numbers are a little bit tricky because they're making them kind of the same here, aren't they? With all these 8s and 0s, but 0.008. So dividing by 100 would mean that I move my decimal point 2 places to the left. So 0.008. And 1 over 125,000. So let's try that on the fraction button. Okay, my calculator is telling me 8 times 10 to the power negative 6, so Shift and Eng until I get 10 to the power 0, and I've got 0 point, and then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros and an 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros and an 8. Right, in order to properly compare these, what we need to do is write them all so they have the same number of digits after the decimal point. So the last one there has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 digits after the decimal point. So the 0.008, I'm going to put another 3 zeros there, so it has the same number of digits after the decimal point. This one, I just need to put a 1 0, and this one, so 0.000800. So now I can compare them. If they have the same number of digits after the decimal point, I can compare them. Yes, they are trying to confuse us in this question with all these zeros and all these 8s. So each of these numbers, when I write it as a decimal, begins with a 0, so I just need to look at what's on the left-hand side. And really what I've got here, because I have the same number of digits after the decimal point on each one, I can compare them. So that's just like an 8. That one would be an 80. That's an 800. And that's an 8,000. So the smallest one would be the 8, so 1 over 125,000. Then the next one is the 80, which is 8 times 10 to the power negative 5. And then the next one is the 800, which is 0.0008. And then the last one is the 0.8%, the 8,000, so 0.8%. Right, well, there you are. That's the answer for that question, isn't it? Not the easiest numbers to follow, really, but there you go. That's what we get. So the method for this, write them all as decimals and make sure that we are writing the same number of digits after the decimal point in each of the numbers. And you do that basically by filling up with zeros on the right-hand side. So our next exam question, write the following in order of size, smallest first. And it looks like another one where they're going to be trying to confuse us a little bit with all these 0.9s, but let's see what happens. Why not pause the video, try it, and then press play, and we can compare our answers. The trick for this, the method for this, remember it's the same every time apart from the numbers. Work these out as decimals, so square root 0.9 on your calculator. Right, I'm going to write down the first 4 digits. That will hopefully be enough. If it's not, I'll have to go back and put some more. So 0.94866. So I'm not actually rounding it, I'm just writing down the first 4 digits. Cube root of 0.9, so either the cube root button on your calculator or the anything root button with a 3 inside it. So cube root 0.9, so 0.9654. And 0.9 squared, so 0.9 to the power 2 is 0.81. However, I'm going to fill it up with zeros, so I have the same number of digits after my decimal point. 0.9 cubed is going to be 0.729, but I need to fill up with zeros. And because they all start with 0 point something, all I have to do is look at the right-hand side after the decimal point, and I can basically just treat these as numbers. So 7,290, 8,100, 9,486, 9,654. So the smallest number there is the 7,290. That corresponds to the 0.9 cubed. And then the next highest would be the 8,100, so that corresponds to 0.9 squared. Remember, we cannot write the decimals as the final answer. We have to write the original numbers. And then it's the 9,486, so that's square root 0.9. And then it's the 9,654, which is cube root 0.9. So there we go. Give yourself 2 marks if you got that one right. Remember, 1 mark, the method is for writing these as decimals. The other mark is for writing them in order. And you must use the original numbers when you're writing these in order. If we are comparing these decimals, they all start with a 0, so that makes it easier, but we must have the same number of digits after the decimal point in order to compare them. So just fill up with zeros if you need to. So one more exam question, try this one. And you might want to pause the video, then compare your answer with mine, but I'm going to go straight on with it. So converting these to decimals, 20 divided by 41 is going to give me as a decimal 0.4878. I'll write down the first 4 digits after the decimal point. If I actually need more than that, then I'll have to go back and do them again. 80 divided by 161 gives me this, 0.4968. And 0.492 is already a decimal, isn't it? So 0.492, and I'll just put a 0 on the end of that. And 4.93%, remember 4.93% is 4.93 over 100. So 4.93% is going to give me 0.0493. So we just have to compare these numbers, and we can see that they all start with a 0 point something, so the left-hand side doesn't really matter, they're all 0 point something. We're just comparing the right-hand side and just treat them like normal numbers. So that one would be 493, which is smaller than the others because we've got a 4,878, a 4,968, and a 4,920. So the smallest one is the 4.93%. So remembering to write it in the original form. What's next then? 4,800 and something, isn't it? So 20 over 41, putting them in order of size, starting with the smallest. 4,920 would be the 0.492. And then 4,968 would be the last one, the 80 over 161. Well, I do hope the video was useful to you, and if it was, then please like and subscribe because that's useful to us. Thank you very much for watching. I will return with the next video.